Oh, boys and girls, it's become something of a Football Manager launch period tradition. I holiday the game 100 years forward into the future, and we have a look to see what happened. Well, luckily enough, as you'll know if you've been watching my Arsenal series, I've spent the last 3 days away at Comic-Con. I left the computer holidaying the entire time I was gone, and I've returned to it nearly 200 years in the future. So we've got 100 years today. If this gets enough interest, we might do 200 years in a few days' time. I think we probably need, let's say, 5,000 likes for us to go 200 years into the future in another video. But other than that, let's get stuck in and have a look around the future of Football Manager 2022. Hello, folks, and welcome to FM22, 100 years in the future. I'm Kev, and as you can see, we have spent quite a lot of time holidaying FM22 already. This particular save file is the one that's exactly 100 years in the future, and it took 1 day, 13 hours, 54 minutes to go 100 years on an English-only small database. I don't really have the data to compare that to decide if that's good or bad, but it seems like it's holidaying relatively quickly. Like I said in the intro, we've gone about 185 years in 3 days of holidaying, so not too shabby. If you are excited for this video, make sure you leave a like. We've got a likes target to get to, and if you want to see more stuff like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn your notifications on. I have a beta series that's already up and running with Arsenal, and lots more of these little standalone one-off videos during the launch period. And of course, if you're still not playing FM22, you can be playing the beta right now by ordering the game at a discount using my link, which is at the top of the description below. But let's get stuck in and have a little look. Like I say, I've only loaded up England. The reason I've only loaded up England is this here. If I'd have done it with 5-6 nations loaded, can you imagine how long it would take to get 100 years? This is a small database, just England, and it already took more than a day and a half. So in the interest of getting this video out ASAP, this is how we've had to do it. If you want to see other leagues as well, let me know down in the comments. I can always do other leagues, other countries further on in the process of the new game. This is interesting. We just looked at England straight away. Remember, we are in June 21-21. The major clubs in England in June 21-21, and we'll have a look at the story of how they all got here. But the major clubs: Liverpool, Brentford, QPR, Chelsea, Brighton, Arsenal, which I find quite interesting, because there's no Manchester United, there's no Manchester City, there's no Newcastle. I kind of expected Newcastle to absolutely dominate this. Talking of absolute, in fact, I thought this was a 100-year history of the world ranking. It's not. It's just a year's history, or 10 years worth of history in the future. So England, one of the best teams in the world, 10 years in the future, as you would expect when we've only got the English leagues loaded. I think the international stuff is very much going to be dominated by England. That's usually the way. But let's get stuck into the English leagues and have a look to see who's been doing what in the English leagues over the last 100 years. So firstly, who's in the Premier League 100 years in the future? So your Champions League qualifiers are Liverpool, QPR, Brentford and Brighton. Arsenal, Newcastle are there, and Leeds as your other European qualifiers, and Sunderland back up into the Premier League qualifying for the Europa. In fact, is that did they win the Champions League? Sunderland, I think, won the Champions League. Let's just have a little look. So, where is champion? Why? Unless they won the Europa. They won the Europa Cup. Okay, so Sunderland won the Europa Cup, or Europa League, or whatever it's called, Euro Cup in this database, because we haven't got any of the real name fixes on yet. But yeah, Sunderland won the Europa League, so they are in the Champions League for next season. You've then got Chelsea and Man City, so they are in the Premier League. And Manchester United are in there as well. Is there anyone big and obvious who should be in the Premier League that's not there? Spurs getting relegated. Love to see that. Sheffield Wednesday and Sheffield United both there as well. That's it doesn't look like absurd. We've done this some years, and you've had current non-league teams make it all the way through to the Premier League. I don't think there's anything ridiculous about that. I mean, I imagine there's going to be fans of the particular Premier League club that's nowhere to be seen who are like, where's my club? We'll find them. We'll go look for them. We'll have a look at all the past winners in a second, but we're just going to look through what the state of football is in 100 years in the future first. So The Championship looks like this. My club, Peterborough United, up in 6th place in the Championship. That is a thing of beauty. I'm just going to have a little look just for my own purposes. Oh, my word. Posh have spent time in the Premier League. Quite a lot of time in the Premier League. We're just like West Brom of the future looking at this. From now, in reality, there's only 2 more years in history where we're going to spend time in League One. The rest of the time, we're in the Championship, and every now and again we bob up to the Premier League. There was an extended spell in the Premier League there, back in the Championship for a while, a long spell in the Premier League, and then back to being West Brom. I'd take it. I'd absolutely take that as a Peterborough fan. That would be incredible. Forest, Leicester, still not making it back into the big time. I mean, I guess Leicester are in the big time and have been for about 10 years now, and possibly a slight diss on Leicester there, but Forest would be very interesting if Forest never made it back. Forest have made it back a few times. Okay, so Forest, a decent side. Leicester stuck down in the Championship, as are West Ham, Wolves, Fulham, Watford, all down at this level. Portsmouth have made it back up to League One, to the Championship, sorry, from League One. Can we see where have they... There should be an easier way to get to this screen. So Portsmouth, just a Championship, League One. Portsmouth have turned into Peterborough, a team that bounces back and forth between League One and the Championship over the years, it seems. Still no non-league teams at this level. This is, I've got to say, this is a little bit disappointing to me. I was expecting to see like a tiny little non-league team making it all the way up somewhere over the course of 100 years. Torquay, are they non-league in real life at the moment? In my mind, they'll always be a 4th division team. I feel like they might be non-league in real life, though. This is where the Torquay fans are furious with me. But Torquay are non-league in real life. So Torquay have made it back up to the Championship. I guess that's the biggest climber that we've seen in this database. There's no one else currently non-league on that list. So, Grimsby? Are Grimsby non-league in real life? I think they might be as well. We're going back and checking. So Grimsby are in the National League in real life. I can't keep track. Now Posh are in the Championship. I can't keep track of what's going on in League Two and the conference. It's all very complicated. Norwich and Bournemouth getting relegated from the Championship, though. Let's move down to League One and have a look to see what's been going on in League One. This is a bit more like it. Sutton winning League One. That's what I want to be seeing. So Sutton winning League One, who are currently... Did they get promoted to League Two? Goodness sakes, they're an actual Football League team now. Like I say, can't keep track of this lower level football now. My club are big time. Kidderminster, Maidstone up this way as well. West Brom down in League One. York and Orient up into League One as well. Eastleigh is a pretty cool, random looking club to see. I love their logo. The aeroplane is very cool. Eastleigh, I can cope with them being in League One, definitely. Reading down in League One. Birmingham down at this level as well. And then let's have a look at League Two as well to see what's going on down here. Good to see Cambridge down in League Two where they should be. Bit of a disappointment to see them getting promoted to League One again, but they'll enjoy it and then get relegated immediately like they usually do. Luton and Coventry down in League Two is interesting to me. Billericay. Bolton's still down at this level. Did Bolton ever recover? Or are Bolton just rubbish forever now? This might be quite a depressing future if you're a Bolton fan. Yikes. Okay. So you dropped down into non-league for a bit. You did make it back up into the Championship a couple of times. There was a nice little spell in the 2070s when you were largely a Championship club, but now back down as a League One, League Two, back into non-league again for a little while. The next 100 years as a Bolton fan, I mean, it's not going to be a lot of fun for you. That's what we've learned here. Who else have we got knocking around at this? The McDongs being down at this level, beautiful. Would like to see them in non-league, but looks like they're nearly there. 3 teams relegated this year. Dagenham, Redbridge and Guiseley all getting relegated. And then let's have a look at the conference. This is where we'll spot teams who shouldn't be down here and I'll realise, I didn't notice they were missing. Wickham, for example, recently relegated from the Championship in real life, back down in non-league, where they belong. In 100 years in the future. Notts County still non-league. Tell me you made it back into the Football League. They did. In fact, they've made it as high as the Championship, but they've kind of gone from non-league all the way up to the Championship and all the way back down again over 100 years. What a yo-yo club. Like the ultimate yo-yo club. Who else have we got down here. Bristol Rovers. Oh, Northampton, bottom of the conference. Rarely in my life have I seen such a beautiful thing. Bristol Rovers getting relegated as well. Those of you who have been around for a while know I have beef with Bristol Rovers from previous non-league to legend saves. Salford looks like the money didn't help them develop over the years. Oldham are down at the Blackpool as well down here. Kettering and Kings Lynn, two of my four, and Nuneaton. Lots of former starter clubs without the Kev effect, never really making it very far. And then in the Conference South, we've got anyone exciting down here? Not really. That's a bit of a shame. Right, let's head back up to the Premier League. We want to have a look through the past winners and see what's been going on over 100 years in the Premier League, because these things tend to come in waves. So let's get to the present day. So Manchester City and Liverpool. Would you believe Manchester City and Liverpool, quite good at the start of FM22. Chelsea, Man United, Liverpool again. What we're really looking for here is the first example of a team outside of the your big six, your Super League big six. We want to see who the first team to break into that was. What I'm really surprised to see is, like 8 years in, no sign of Newcastle breaking into the top three. We all know how much money Newcastle have got to throw around at the start of FM22. All I'm seeing on Twitter over the weekend is how people are spending their £200 million transfer budgets. Everyone seems to be playing with Newcastle, but it looks like if you just leave it to the AI, it doesn't matter how much money you give them, they don't have that club reputation, that oomph that you need to actually succeed in FM. 10 years in, still no sign of Newcastle. That's how long it took Arsenal to make it back into the top three. I think at this point we've seen all of the big six. In fact, no Spurs still in the top three 10 years in the future. Man City continuing to dominate. There's Newcastle. Newcastle finally breaking into the top three in the 2032-33 season. We see a third place for Newcastle before they drift back down as Manchester City continue to dominate. Arsenal the ones to finally dethrone Man City, and then Arsenal get a nice little period of dominance, it seems, and then Newcastle finally winning the league for the first time 20 years after the takeover. Newcastle are the first team to break the big six. I mean, I guess we probably would have all expected it to be them. I don't think anyone would have expected it to take 20 years for the AI to take Newcastle to the top of the Premier League and then seemingly start to drift back down again, running up the next year, not even in the top three the year after. And that's where we see Spurs finally get a top three finish. That's 7 different teams we've now had in the top three over nearly 25 years of this save. Newcastle making it back up there again, winning the Premier League for a second time. More Arsenal dominance. Man United seem to have disappeared at this point. There's no sign of Man United for a few years. I imagine they're coming back at some point, but maybe not. There's still no sign of them. It just seems to be these same established clubs over and over again. I want to see Bournemouth win the league or someone like that. I want something weird to happen. Usually, there you go. There's something weird. Wow. Okay. So the first team outside of your Super League 6 and Newcastle to finish in the top 6 is Sunderland. It takes 40 years to get there. Top 3, sorry. Takes us 40 years to get there, but Sunderland are the first team to break into the established elite. I don't think anyone puts money on that, do they? But then, I mean, it looks like it's a bit of a fluky third place. They then, to be fair, they're back again like 6 years later. And then Chelsea are having a period of dominance now. Newcastle, they seem to win the league every 10 years or so, then disappear. They certainly don't. They've 3 in a row. Thanks for ruining that narrative. Newcastle, Brentford, Brighton. So Brighton and Brentford, we're starting to get a little bit of a mix up now. So Brighton getting in, Brentford getting in. I think that's now 9 different clubs. No, 10 with Sunderland. 10 different clubs have now finished in the top 3 over 50 years. Brentford enjoying a nice little spell as a top 3 club for a little while. I think Brentford and Brighton were still up there when we looked at the ending league table after these 100 years. So it's clearly Brighton and Brentford having a lovely old time. In fact, Brentford winning the league are the first team outside of your 7. In fact, I don't think Spurs have won the league at any point in this yet. So I think Brentford are the 7th team to win the Premier League during this period, having a nice little period, a long period of dominance. 4 in a row for Brentford. Chelsea finally breaking that and Brentford finishing runner-up that year. We get Everton breaking into the top 3 as well, but then Brentford grabbing their crown back and dominating for another continued period before Arsenal wrestle it back from them. And now Everton have won their Premier League. That's the 8th team to win the Premier League now during this little run. It's not because Spurs still haven't. Actually, it is. Still no win for Spurs, though. It's beautiful. QPR now. I missed QPR's rise to the top. Several third place finishes, 4 in 6 years, then a runners-up spot, and then they finally win the league before, I guess, starting to drift back down and handing West London dominance back to Chelsea again. It certainly seems to be a hotbed around that area. Chelsea, QPR, Brentford. I mean, they're all pretty geographically close to each other. It's obviously the new hot area of football development. They're just handing the trophy back and forth between the three of them over years and years and years. I mean, you've got a top. Do we ever get a top 3 of Brentford, QPR, Chelsea? We get pretty close a few times. Liverpool messing it up for them over and over again, though, by just getting involved. Liverpool starting to force their way back in. It'd been a long time, I think, since Liverpool had won the league. Winning it in 2095 for the first time in 40 years. Liverpool had waited for a trophy. But it looks like once you get to the end of our 100-year holiday period, Liverpool have forced their way back up to the top again. But QPR, Brentford, Brighton, still very much in the mix. If we look at QPR's history, we used to have the league history screen that showed up on here. Does that not exist anymore? There it is. So QPR, we only see the last 20 years on here, but you can see QPR very much one of the big teams. Media predicted them to finish first. If we have a look at their competitions won, 4 times Champions League winners, 3 times Premier League winners. QPR having a lovely 100 years. We're going to check in and look at the same thing for Brentford as well, because they look like they've had possibly an even better time of things. So Brentford have won the Champions League 5 times, runners-up 6 times, all in the last 40 years or so as well. 14-time Premier League winners, Brentford. They are properly dominant. They might arguably the most dominant team of the last 100 years, or certainly of the last 20 years, playing in the Annabelle Moulden Stadium. Who on earth is Annabelle Moulden? Is she someone who exists in real life? She was the manager. I guess, is she still the manager? She's the interim manager of Brentford. She's been the interim manager of Brentford since 2068. She's 100 years old. She's been the interim manager for what, 60 years? They've never given her the job full time. Can you imagine? She's a Brentford legend, but they never gave her the job. Talking about sexism, they never gave her the job full time. I feel like that might need to be a bug report, actually. I might slip that bug report in once I finish doing that video, because I think at some point during that 60 years of dominance, you probably give her the job full time. And I also think you probably don't leave her as manager until she's 100 years old and you're naming the stadium after her. I mean, they named the stadium after her 30 years ago. She's won the Premier League 14 times since then, and they still haven't given her the job on a permanent basis. Is that a common thing? Let's just check in with QPR's current manager. So their current manager is only 51. He is a proper manager and he's only been there 5 years. So clearly sexism, calling it now, sexism. Brighton, let's see what Brighton have been up to. Just in the creatively named Brighton Stadium. They don't have a nice club legend to name it after. No Annabelle at Brighton. That's not the one I'm trying to look at. Honours, yeah, they're not as good as I thought they were, actually. And then Liverpool, who have made it back up to the top now in the Kylian Mbappe Arena. That gives a little bit of a spoiler for somebody who might have signed for Liverpool at some point. The Kylian Mbappe Arena, they're managed by Jeff Asante, who has been there for, not very long, and he's the full manager. So clearly it's just this glitch with Brentford, which seemingly coincides with them dominating the world of football as well, which is interesting. Right, let's just go back and have a look at transfers. I think we can go all the way back to the current year, and we're just going to pick out the biggest transfers each season. I think this is data Football Manager will still hold. So we're going to very quickly go through like the next 10 years of this while it's still meaningful. Obviously, once it all becomes new gens, we're not going to worry too much about this. But Declan Rice was the biggest transfer going to West Ham. Obviously you can pause on these screens and pick out any really interesting ones and let me know in the comments. There'll always be people saying, Kev, I can't believe you missed. I'm going through it quickly and trying to be entertaining while I do it. Sandro Tonali, the biggest transfer of that summer. Lewandowski signing for Liverpool. That's an interesting one, possibly. We're looking for the big superstars. So Ansu Fati going to Manchester City for 161 million is an interesting one in the same summer as Gabriel Jesus going to Paris Saint-Germain. Gravenberch is always a big player in FM, and it looks like he continues to be in this version of the game as well. Obviously, these are just the Premier League transfers. World transfers are going to be a little bit different, but they'll also be a little bit skewed by the fact we don't have those leagues loaded. I guess Mbappe must have signed for Liverpool on a free because he's not showing up on these big transfers unless he signed much later. Odegaard going to Inter at that point. Wesley Fofana at Leicester over 100 million. Reina going to Man United for 104 million. We've got Kurt Zouma on the biggest transfer, 62 million. Kurt Zouma going to Milan. That's an interesting one, I think. Still no sign of Mbappe arriving. There's Gravenberch moving on to Manchester City now. Ben Chilwell goes to Barcelona for 53 million in 4 years' time. Watch this space. This is a prediction. This isn't just simulating what might happen. This is what's going to happen, I think. Reece Nelson, £60 million from Arsenal to Norwich. Norwich just get a crazy takeover again. Because Norwich had a stupid amount of money on a tycoon takeover in my FM20 save. Yeah, they get a tycoon takeover in 2022. And then another tycoon takeover 10 years later. What is it with all the tycoons taking over Norwich? It's almost like it's hard-coded into the game. There's always money being flung around at Norwich, and they fling it so nicely. 60 million on Reece Nelson being the perfect example of it. What a fling. Right, who else? Youssoufa Moukoko finally leaving Dortmund in 2028 to go to Manchester City for 131 million. Same summer as Emile Smith-Rowe leaves Arsenal for PSG for 125 million, and Reina leaves Man United to go to Bayern for 100 million plus. Richarlison signing for Barcelona is an interesting one. I think I almost did that in my rebuilding Barcelona save. Not this far into the future, though. Donnarumma ends up at Manchester City as well. Harvey Elliott ends up at Arsenal. Curtis Jones also ending up at Arsenal. Phil Foden leaves City to go to Chelsea in 8 years' time. How old would he be then? I can't even do the maths now. It's too complicated for me. I'm sure some of you will let me know all about it. And it's starting to get less meaningful to me now. Demir going from Roma to Norwich is an interesting one, as someone who enjoyed managing him for Barcelona. But yeah, there's less and less recognisable names. So I think we're probably at the point where, yeah, this becomes less meaningful. I do just want to see how and when Mbappe signed for Liverpool. So he signed for Liverpool in 2022. Does it say, I guess he came in on a free transfer. What a signing that would be. And he was there a long time and scored a lot of goals. That's why they named the stadium after him, presumably. Right, what else do we need to look at? Champions League winners. Just to give a little bit of a flavour of what's been going on in the world outside of England. As you would expect, it is pretty dominated by English clubs because that's the league we've got loaded. It starts off being a little bit more evenly balanced, but then very quickly skews towards England and take a lot of this with a pinch of salt. Obviously, Paris Saint-Germain, lots of money, continue to win quite a lot of Champions Leagues. They are 10 times Champions League winners in this universe. So 10% of the time over the course of the save, Paris Saint-Germain ending up as winners. Man City certainly seem to pick up a few as well. Atletico Madrid look like they've had quite a good spell of things also. Newcastle won 4 Champions Leagues in a row. So although the money may not have sorted them out to completely dominate the world in England, it looked like it sorted them out in the Champions League. I mean, to be fair, they did win 13 Premier Leagues. The bulk of them there was a couple in the 40s, but then they were good from basically in the 70s. It was Newcastle's era. They won the Premier League 7 times. They won the Champions League 5 times. They were runners-up 4 more times in the Champions League that decade. Just the 70s were Newcastle's time. I'm going to have a look at the Newcastle transfer specifically in a second, so I know people are super interested in that. How long did the owners stay in for? I'm waiting to see when they get a takeover. So 2035, they had a takeover from a consortium, and then 4 months later, a new tycoon comes in. But then a year later, someone else. This is weird. Newcastle's a weird club. Another new tycoon there. There seems to be a lot of tycoons in FM22. I guess maybe that's an indication of where football is going. But the actual push on to greatness really came in when this Josh Humphreys guy took over, because that's when they had their period of dominance. So it wasn't actually with a tycoon. But let's go back and look at Newcastle's transfers. So if we go all the way back to see what they did, see how they spent their crazy money. So they did spend £149 million in that first season. And then, I mean, I'm looking for world superstars. Did they bring any in? It's going to struggle a little bit to pick up this specific data. I mean, Marcus Bettinelli for 32k says a lot about how the AI manages Newcastle with this huge budget. They're spending big money, but they're spending big money on players that no human would sign for a team that has this kind of money. You would go out and get top superstars. And I just don't see that they're doing that. And this is why they don't ever win anything. The AI is making a mess of managing Newcastle. Who would have thought? Right, last thing, we're just going to check in on the World Cup. I know I've only scratched the surface of this save. Let me know down in the comments if we end up doing the 200 years in the future, which remember, we need 5,000 likes for. If we end up doing it and there's obvious stuff that I'm missing, let me know and I'll make sure I include it in the 200 years in the future one. But I'm conscious of not making the video too long. So your World Cup winners looks like Portugal, Argentina, Portugal, Belgium, Croatia, France, Bulgaria, Spain, Italy, Brazil, Bulgaria, Germany, England. Hey, it took over 100 years to win another World Cup. And then another one comes along in 2078. And then Portugal, China. That's interesting. China becoming a real force in world football next century. 2 World Cup wins. Bulgaria also picking up. I think Bulgaria have won more World Cups than England now. So Bulgaria with 6 World Cup wins for Bulgaria, compared to England with their 3 World Cup wins and China with 2. So despite having the English leagues loaded, it seems like it's Bulgaria that's really become quite dominant, which is really interesting, especially when they've effectively just had one club dominate the country for 100 years. Really weird stuff. Right, and the one other thing, Ballon d'Or, but it's not called Ballon d'Or, so I've got to work out. Is it World Footballer of the Year? Is this the Ballon d'Or? Is this the... We can look at them all here anyway. So we just want to see who the early Ballon d'Or winners are so that you can pick out your superstar wonder kids. So De Bruyne, Mbappe, this is all breaking news for you. De Bruyne, Mbappe, Erling Haaland are all quite good in this version of FM. Phil Foden, 10 years' time, will win the World Player of the Year. There's nothing really groundbreaking there, I don't think. And I think that probably is enough. I think this video has gone on long enough. If you want more, you know what to do. I've explained it a few times. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to see in a next video. And if you want 200 years in the future, we need 5,000 likes. If you have enjoyed the video, make sure you leave one of those likes. Subscribe to the channel for lots more Football Manager content coming out over the next few weeks and months. And thank you very much for watching.